Here's something you might not have seen coming. A franchise once dragged through online forums and dismissed by certain legends is suddenly looking like the league's newest powerhouse. If you'd listened to the critics, you'd have believed the Indiana Fever were doomed, that veterans would run for the hills rather than sign with a team spotlighted by the ever-polarizing Caitlyn Clark. After all, when a celebrated figure like Cheryl Swoops bluntly claimed nobody wants to be there, it sent shockwaves through the basketball community. And for a while, that storyline dominated the conversation. Yet, here we are, standing on the cusp of a new season, and the chatter has flipped from, "Nobody wants to play with Clark," to, "Did you see who just signed in Indiana?" This shift didn't happen by accident. The Fever front office strategized, head coach Stephanie White mapped out big plans, and general manager Kelly Krauskopf honed in on specific championship-level targets. But perhaps most importantly, one veteran star emerged to silence the critics: Natasha Howard. The three-time WNBA champion and former Defensive Player of the Year didn't just sign with Indiana. She enthusiastically chose the franchise that first drafted her in 2014. In doing so, she shattered the rumor that the Fever is some toxic environment, pushing away top talent. Instead, she embraced the chance to play alongside Caitlyn Clark, a widely popular yet polarizing rookie whose presence has redefined what we expect from a first-year player. How did we get from gloom and doom to unstoppable optimism? And why did veterans with multiple championship rings suddenly see the Fever as the ideal landing spot? To understand that, we have to revisit where all the skepticism came from in the first place. For months, a loud chorus of voices insisted that Caitlyn Clark, despite her insane passing ability, deep-range shooting, and unstoppable swagger, was a problem. Critics argued she'd hog the spotlight, overshadow her teammates, and fail to build meaningful chemistry with veterans. Fueling this fire, Cheryl Swoops famously predicted that big-name players would dodge the Indiana Fever to avoid sharing the floor with Clark. Social media latched onto that quote. Entire comment sections filled with arguments about Clark's style, her trash-talking, her willingness to pull up from near half court, and the swirling hype that followed her. Some folks felt her popularity was built on flashiness and viral highlights rather than sustained, proven performance. Others loved every second, claiming she was breathing new life into the league. Through it all, the Fever's front office said little. They didn't publicly counter the negativity or hype up their plans. Instead, they quietly mapped out a path to assemble a roster around Clark that would elevate everyone's game. But on the surface, casual fans saw an organization that had struggled for years, missed the playoffs repeatedly, and had yet to prove it could attract or keep top-tier free agents. All these doubts were easy to believe. Why would any star risk their reputation on a perennial underdog? And with various other teams clamoring for household names, it seemed logical that the Fever might get left behind. Yet, as the old saying goes, what happens behind closed doors often tells a different story. The Fever weren't stuck. They were waiting for the right time to make their move. No single move shattered the negative narrative more than Natasha Howard's decision to return to Indiana. Howard isn't just another high-level player. Her resume includes 3 WNBA titles, a Defensive Player of the Year award, and consistent scoring and rebounding averages that place her among the league's elite. When someone with that track record chooses a particular franchise, it speaks volumes. Howard's emotional press conference became the talk of the WNBA offseason. She held up her original Indiana Fever jersey from 2014, tears welling up as she recalled her rookie days. This wasn't a rushed transaction or a last resort fallback. It was a deliberate homecoming. Howard mentioned unfinished business, referencing her departure after her initial rookie contract and the feeling that she never fully realized her potential in Indiana. Now that she's back, she's determined to guide the team to a championship, picking up right where she left off, but with a world of additional experience under her belt. Even more telling was her readiness to defend Caitlyn Clark from the wave of negativity. Instead of feeding rumors that Clark's presence deters veterans, Howard spoke about how she couldn't wait to share the floor with an exciting young playmaker. She even laughed off old social media chatter that insisted big-name stars wouldn't want to deal with that circus. For Howard, there is no circus, just a star rookie ready to dish assists and a franchise eager to turn talent into titles. Her decision immediately forced everyone, fans, media, and players across the league, to question the old assumptions. If the Fever was truly such an undesirable location, why would a champion with multiple rings and top-tier stats voluntarily sign up? And not just sign up, but do so with genuine excitement? That question hung in the air, steadily dissolving the perception that Indiana was a dead end. To appreciate Howard's move, you have to understand Caitlyn Clark's style of play. Clark is a generational passer with a scoring touch that seems almost video game-like. She doesn't just thread needles on fast breaks, she throws no-look passes and fires cross-court lobs that somehow always land in the perfect spot. Think about it. A forward who thrives in transition, Howard is nicknamed Flash for a reason, paired with a guard who sees open lanes before they even form. The synergy is obvious. Clark's court vision demands teammates capable of running the floor, catching tough passes, and finishing strong at the rim. That's precisely what Howard does. She sprints the floor like a guard, uses her lengthy wingspan to snag passes other forwards can't, and finishes through contact. In a league where fast break opportunities can decide close games, the Clark-Howard combo has all the ingredients for nightly highlight reels. During her introductory presser, Howard outright said, "I can't wait to run the floor and get those passes." She lit up at the mention of Clark's name, describing how she'd studied the rookie's instincts and recognized the immediate potential to form a lethal partnership. Where some predicted friction or jealousy, both players see opportunity. Clark's been dying to have a forward with the speed to match her transition push, and Howard finally has a point guard who can capitalize on every stride she takes. Critics once said Clark's brashness and flair would drive veterans away. Now, veterans are talking about how fun it's going to be running the floor and feeding off that energy. Instead of pushing them away, Clark's skill set seems to be pulling them in, and Howard was the first major piece of evidence. While the Clark-Howard pairing was rightfully lauded for its offensive potential, Howard's biggest stamp on this team might come on the defensive end. She's averaged at least 1 steal and 1 block per game for 7 straight seasons, earning the Defensive Player of the Year distinction in 2019. That kind of consistency signals a leadership style that isn't just about stats, it's about changing an entire team's mindset. The Fever have struggled defensively in recent years, often languishing near the bottom of the league in key metrics. Young players can sometimes lack the discipline or awareness to execute complex defensive schemes, especially when dealing with top-tier scorers. That's where Howard's presence becomes invaluable. She's seen it all: championship-level rotations, intense playoff matchups, and game plans designed to minimize the best shooters in the world. Her near 7-foot wingspan disrupts passing lanes, and her timing around the rim deters easy layups. As a vocal defender, she calls out switches, anticipates backdoor cuts, and effectively orchestrates a cohesive backline. For someone like Clark, still adjusting to the speed and physicality of the pro game, having Howard behind her is a massive confidence boost. Clark can apply more perimeter pressure, knowing that if she's beaten off the dribble, Howard's there to contest or alter shots. Coach Stephanie White has already mentioned how Howard's leadership will help younger players develop a champion's approach to defense. It's one thing to talk about focusing on that end of the floor, and another to witness a star who truly embodies it. When you watch Howard dive for loose balls, rotate unselfishly, and encourage her teammates to do the same, you're watching a cultural shift in real time. Natasha Howard's signing wasn't an isolated move. If it were just her, maybe critics could chalk it up to nostalgia or a random preference. But the Fever kept adding championship-caliber veterans with skill sets that fit together like puzzle pieces. Denana Bonner, a proven champion with multiple deep playoff runs, joined the fold. So did Sophie Cunningham, a sharp-shooting wing who knows how to thrive under playoff pressure in Phoenix. And to top it off, the Fever picked up Sydney Coulson, a steady 2-time champion point guard, known for her leadership on and off the court.